Here we go. Okay, so just want to say hi, everybody. My name is Sari Nussbaum, and I head up marketing here at SurgeonMate. Thank you all for coming to this session. I know it was pretty short notice, so we appreciate that. And we are really super excited about this new feature. A lot of it was actually built with your help over the focus groups over the last few weeks. And we know it's been a challenging time at surgical practices, and we certainly hope that this is going to help you work through the huge backlog that you're now facing. So we've actually got Erica Saltzman, who will be running the session today. Erica is pretty new to our team. She's the Director of Professional Services, and she will be running this session. And we're actually going to request that you keep your questions till the end, or feel free to type them into the chat, and we will factor them in later on, just so that we can get a steady flow with the training. But absolutely, we'll answer everybody's questions. I'm going to place everybody on mute, and we'll unmute you when we do the Q&A. So I'm going to hand it over to Erica in just 1 second. There's a few more people coming in, just a sec. Make sure they're not muted. Okay. All right, Erica, take it away.
Great. Thank you, Sari, for the introduction. As Sari said, I'm the Director of Professional Services here at SurgeonMate. I've been with the company since the beginning of 2020. So I haven't had a chance yet to meet all of you, but I am looking forward to it. I'm managing the implementations team, the customer support and customer success teams. So I'm here today to show you our new prioritization feature. Gonna scroll through here. There's not a lot of slides, but as Sari mentioned, we've really created this feature from everybody here. When COVID-19 first started coming out and we started hearing about surgery cancellations, we started to brainstorm about how we can really help you, our practices, to get up and running when the time came. So we started. Like as Sari mentioned, we had some focus groups, we sent out some surveys, and really what we came up with is all thanks to all the input that we've received from everybody here. And we're really excited to share it with you and show you how it works and get you guys up and running so that you can utilize it in your workflow. The really good thing about
this is Justin, just a request from people to speak a little louder if possible.
Sorry, can you hear me better now?
I hope so.
Moving closer to my microphone. Okay. The other really good thing about this feature is that it's not specific to COVID-19. It's something that you can utilize in your workflow at any time because it helps you prioritize surgeries, which is something that can always be used. So let's just jump into the product. So I'm showing you here I hope you can see my screen. I'm showing you here a sample patient. I'm showing you a calendar, and we have a surgery scheduled here. This patient, for example, is going to cancel their surgery. So we're going to go in and we're going to cancel this surgery. The reason we're canceling it is for COVID-19. So now this surgery is canceled, and now we need to know, how are we going to determine what the prioritization is when it comes time to reschedule? So you may already notice there's a new section up here at the top called Priority, and it's marked as NA. This is the new section that's going to help show you what the prioritization factor is. If you click on this link here, it's going to open up for you a new section called Priority Calculator. This priority calculator is set up with 5 different factors that will help you prioritize your surgery. These are the 5 factors that you told us are the things that you consider when you are scheduling surgeries. The 5 factors here are the surgeon's priority, the medical urgency, the patient's health, the scheduling history, and the financial. So Another really exciting thing about this feature is that not every practice utilizes every one of these 5 factors. So you can choose which of these factors you want to calculate into your priority total. So for example, if your practice is only considering the surgeon's priority and the surgeon determines this patient is a high factor, you would choose that it's high. And then you would see here that the calculated priority is high and is based on 1 factor. And you see here at the top of our screen, the priority changed to high. If your practice is also taking into consideration other factors, you would select those as well. So for example, you might say there's a certain CPT code that we need to prioritize or a certain diagnosis. And if you see that information here, and we're pulling up the related data to the factor, and we're pulling this all out of the surgery. So if you see here that, okay, this is a medium, so I'm going to score it here based on this high, medium, and low in NA. Also, just so you know, these determining factors, the high, medium, and low, that also came from the survey that you sent us. We were going to do 1 through 5, and you told us you prefer high, medium, and low. So that's where we went. You can choose from any one of those factors. You can choose the level that you're going to rate it, and it's going to now calculate. Here we see this is now calculating based on 2 factors, and now it's still considered high. Here we have patient health. Patient health is taking into account the patient's age, their ASA level, which is something new, and their COVID-19 status. You see here, this one, the ASA level is not yet set. So if we click on here, it's going to take us to the medical history tab. Within the medical history tab, we have 2 new drop-downs you may notice here. One is the ASA classification, which very much came from feedback we received from you. And here you can choose what their ASA classification is. So in this case, the patient's in ASA 2. And we also have a COVID-19 testing. So let's say in this case, this patient tested negative. Okay, so now we're going to go back to the scheduling tab, and we're going to open up that priority calculator, and you'll see that the ASA level and the COVID-19 factor are now showing up here in the patient health. And now you can take that into consideration and determine if you're considering this high, medium, or low. And as you see, with each change that you make here, it's affecting the calculated priority, and it's changing the color up here. For some of you, it might be important to know what the patient's scheduling history is. Have they rescheduled? Have they canceled? If so, on what date was their previous surgery? That might be something you take into consideration. It also might be something that's not applicable. Again, for any of these factors, if they're not applicable, you can just leave them as NA, and that'll take that out of your calculations. And lastly, for the financials, we have the patient's insurance information here. And again, you can choose if that's high, medium, or low for you. And you can see here, it's recording, I'm the scheduler, Emily Smith, today. This is showing you who set the priority and on what date. So now we've learned how to assign a priority to an individual patient, to an individual surgery. So now let's go back into our overview, to see how this is really going to help us with the prioritization of the surgeries. So we're going to pull up our saved view. And this is a saved view that everybody has. I just want to pause here for a minute and point out that everybody has a different workflow. Each practice is handling canceled surgeries different right now. So how you're going to pull the data is going to maybe be a little bit different for each practice. And we'll discuss it again at the end, but we're happy to sit with each practice individually to help you determine what your view should be and based on your own workflow. So for this instance, we're going to pull up the cancellation report. And I'm going to pull in based on dates, the cancel date. And I'm going to see here now any surgery that was canceled in the last 2 months. Okay, so this should be pretty familiar to most of you. And now you're going to see here all the new information that we've added for the prioritization tool have also been added to the overview to help you sort your surgeries. So here we're going to pull up priority, and you're going to be able to open up all of those fields here in the overview. So as you can see, you now have the calculated priority, and it's color coded to make it a little bit easier for you to see. And you can also see if somebody doesn't have a priority assigned to them, okay? And you also have each of these individual fields. So you can pull up their surgeon priority, their medical urgency, their patient health, their scheduling history, and their financials. And you can sort by that as well. So if you only want to see your patients who are high priority, you would just sort it that way. In addition to the priority tabs, we've also added, based on your requests, we've added another section here. We've always listed the patient's date of birth, but we've also added a column with the patient's age. That was a request that came through, I think, from somebody here, to have their patient's age listed here on the overview. And you can filter this if you only want to see patients, I don't know, age 0 to 50. And you only want to prioritize them, you can just use the slider and pull up your patients by their age. And this age is based on their age at the creation date of the surgery. One more section that was added over here. We've also included the ASA and the ASA level and the COVID-19 status into the patient information section. So if you scroll over here, let me unfilter. Got a lot of stuff open here. I've filtered out all their ages. But as you see here, we have, once they've been assigned, you'll be able to see their ASA status and their COVID-19 status here as well. So all of those factors are now listed here. So the next step is really figuring out which of these factors are the things that you need for your own practice, for your own workflow. So it could be that when all of this started and you started canceling surgeries, maybe you didn't put them in the system as canceled. Maybe you listed them as, maybe you kept them active. Maybe you created them as drafts. Each one of you is going to have used the system a little bit differently. So what we're going to do with you is we're going to help you. Again, we're happy to set up these individual sessions to help you figure out which factors you need to see here in your overview to create your own customized view so that you can get rescheduling your surgeries in a much faster and easier fashion. It could be that you're pulling all these things out and you want to say, okay, this is what I want. This is going to be my save view. I'm going to call it new feature. And now every time I want to go and pull up my prioritized surgeries, I'm going to use this new saved view called new feature. And I'll pull it up and it'll be sorted based on the columns that I've selected. Okay? It's pretty, I hope that it's going to be helpful for you. It should be pretty straightforward. We're happy to answer questions. Justin, I don't know if you have questions.
Yeah, there was a question that came in regarding BMI as to whether or not that's also included if you go to the priority calculator. And the answer is, if you just open up a patient there, I'm not sure if it was on that example. If we looked at it, but the answer is yes. BMI does come in as part of the patient's medical history. It's over there, and that's also pushed forward to help you with the prioritization of the patients based on some of these core medical data that's coming, of course, across from the different tabs.
Great question.
Any other questions? I've just unmuted everybody, so feel free to shout out if it's something you want to see again or something you want clarified. Again, you can either type it into the chat or feel free to speak. Or just say, this is great. Anything.
Hi,
Um,
this is Rebecca. This is great, I think. Um, maybe it would be good to get people's feedback if they think here that it's something that they would use or something that they think could be added to, or a piece of information that they feel's missing. It would be great to hear.
we did have a couple of questions though that are coming through on the chat privately to me. So thank you again. On the overview, there was a question regarding the age parameter and where that came in from. So you can just show again where that came in. It actually comes in from DOB. So as Erica mentioned, you'll have date of birth, and that brings in 2 fields. There's a difference now. In the past, DOB did not have that little plus sign in the drop down. The plus sign indicates that there is more than 1 column that's going to be added. So as soon as you add that, it brings in not just the date of birth, but also the patient's age. And as Erica mentioned, the patient's age is calculated based on what the age was at the date of the creation of the surgery. Okay?
Thank you, Jocelyn.
Any other questions? Feel free to put on the group chat or on the general chat. And also, as Rebecca mentioned, feedback would be greatly appreciated, or anything else. Oh, another question has come through. No question, just excellent, thank you. Okay.
And I think what's also really important, Erica, you're going to touch on this, is that we're happy to set up one-on-one sessions with any group who just wants help setting up the saved view that will work best for their workflow, because everyone does it differently, and we want to make sure that we've set you up correctly.
Yep. And also, of course, this is going to be a great feature for those practices who are looking to identify patients and the backlog of patients. But a lot of the feedback which we had during the focus groups was this is going to be a useful feature for new patients and prioritizing those new patients for the long term, and also lining up the new patients that come through and to see whether or not they get prioritized above existing patients that have had their surgeries cancelled. So I think that this has great utilization today. And again, as mentioned, we'll be very happy to set up those sessions. And maybe, Erica, you could talk about how everybody can do that. And also as a long-term future feature beyond once this pandemic is hopefully going to be behind us.
Yep. So yeah, everybody is welcome to please reach out to our support team. We're happy to set up a session. If you've received an email with a link to set up an appointment, you can go ahead and do that. Otherwise, just reach out to support. We'd be happy to set it up and to show you, to help you individually with your own workflow. So happy to hear from you.
Looks like we have, just a comment. Not sure. Is that Michelle, I think? Excellent. That's from Mendelssohn. Fantastic.
Okay, and good luck with everything.
Hey, Justin.
Yes.
If I may, this is Kemuel, sorry.
Hi.
2 comments. One is thanks for developing this rather rapidly for us as we're all experiencing something new in our world. 2 comments. One would be the color of red. It's a small nuance, but it's paradoxical because usually with the priority of red, it means stop. Maybe consider green for go.
It's so interesting that you say that, because we went backwards and forwards and tried to decide whether or not it would be red or green, and we wanted to ensure that sort of kept in line. So red within the SurgiMate system, if you think about the color palette for things like the checklist, indicates stop and take attention, whereas the green is it's done, and like a green tick means in the SurgiMate system it's done, and you can sort of feel comfortable that you don't have to do any more action on this. Which is why I suppose when you think about this as a patient that is a high priority within the system, will think that this is a more intuitive color for it's a high priority. It requires attention to get this patient back on the schedule. So that was our thinking. We actually considered it and did some research, and that was what we came down to. And we can consider whether or not we can modify the color scheme on a practice-by-practice basis in a future version. But for now, that's the decision which we started. Thank you. That was the first question. Do you have a second question as well, Camille?
The second question I had was age on create date. I'm trying to reconcile that. Does it make sense to have it that way, or does it make sense to have the current age according to the day? And the reason I suggest that is because we're typically booking our total joints maybe 4 or 5 months out in advance. And it would be kind of nice to know what their date is today when I'm working on them.
Yeah, so again, we can adjust, potentially adjust this in a future version if that's, or possibly even have a second column pop in. The issue is when patients don't have an actual surgery date, then we will have it basically as empty, and that would provide a little bit of a sort of a inconsistency that why is this patient not having? People might think it's an error. So that was the logic behind that, and it's possible that we should add in a second date, which is the date upon create date and the date upon surgery date. So if that's an important field, and obviously the data exists within the SurgiMate system, and if the patient is unscheduled, it will appear as NA. But for now, we wanted just to not overload it and put one column in, so that was where we came down with that.
Excellent.
I think Camille suggested maybe to do it against today's date. Like, what's the patient date today?
The date today. Oh, right. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. But there's a slight, we're able to do it, but it's just, it's a technical issue, but we'll take that on board.
We can address that, and that's on that end. It's a programming issue to filter that in, and the time to market to get something out. So maybe we'll put all three in: the date today. You have a happy birthday pop up for the patients.
There you go.
That's right.
Hey, thanks again. You guys have done a nice job generating this quickly for us. Appreciate it.
We do hope it's useful, and we do hope we can work together with everybody on the call to ensure that this gets implemented in a fast and useful fashion for everybody.
Thank you, Camille, for all your input and helping getting this together.
Yes. The ASA one is the Camille feature. That actually came directly from you from that late night where you think, oh, that's a great way in which we can track the patient's health.
Yeah, absolutely. I see this being used post-COVID, so that's why I appreciate the thought.
Definitely. Agreed. Great. Anybody else have some questions? Otherwise, I think we'll wrap up. Nope.
Okay.
Great.
Okay, and if anyone didn't watch the video, which we sent out as a reminder or send it around to the rest of your team, it's in that initial email, and feel free to share it. And if anybody has any questions, feel free to reach out.
And if anybody would like a copy of this recording for their team members, we're happy to share that as well if they weren't able to make it, and we can provide that as well. So thank you all, and good luck with the rescheduling, and take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.